The old house on Willow Creek Lane had always hummed with a quiet, comforting rhythm. For 72 years, Ruth Price had known its every creak, every groan, every whisper of the wind through its ancient eaves. It was her sanctuary, a repository of memories, a place where the world outside felt distant and harmless. But on that unforgiving night in 1988, the house became a cage, and its familiar sounds turned into a symphony of terror. It was just past 11. A soft rain had begun to tap against the windows, a lullaby that usually coaxed Ruth into a gentle sleep. Tonight, however, sleep refused to come. A prickle of unease had been crawling up her spine for the past hour. She dismissed it as an old woman's fancy, the creaks of the house playing tricks on her mind. But then, she saw him. A shadow detached itself from the deeper darkness beyond her living room window. Tall, indistinct, moving with an unnatural slowness. Ruth's breath hitched. Her heart, a weary old drum, began to pound a frantic rhythm against her ribs. She pressed her face closer to the cold glass, peering through the gap in the curtains. The shadow was still there, now closer to the front door, just beyond the reach of the single dim porch light. It was definitely a man. He seemed to be studying the house, a silent, predatory gaze that Ruth felt even from behind the thick glass. Panic, cold and sharp, pierced through her. Her hands, gnarled with age, fumbled for the telephone on the small table beside her armchair. Her fingers, trembling violently, struggled with the rotary dial. Each number felt like an eternity. 911. A calm, professional voice answered, cutting through the rising tide of her fear. "What's your emergency?" "Oh, please help me," Ruth gasped, her voice a thin, reedy whisper, thick with terror. There's a man outside my house. He's trying to get in." "Ma'am, please calm down," the operator, a young woman named Sarah, instructed gently. "Can you tell me your name and address?" "Ruth Price," she choked out, her gaze glued to the window. The shadow had moved, now closer to the front door. It's 314 Willow Creek Lane. Please hurry." "All right, Miss Price, we're dispatching officers to your location. Can you describe the man? Is he armed?" Sarah's voice was a lifeline, but it felt impossibly far away. Ruth tried to articulate, but her mind was a whirlwind of fear. I can't see him clearly. It's dark. He's just a man, tall. He's just standing there, looking. He's trying the doorknob, I think. Oh God, he's coming to the back door now." A guttural thud resonated from the back of the house, a sound that sliced through the mundane drizzle outside. Ruth flinched, pulling the receiver tighter to her ear. He's at the back. He's trying the back door." "Stay on the line, Miss Price. Officers are on their way. Are all your doors and windows locked?" Yes, they are, but he's strong. Oh, please." Ruth's voice climbed an octave, edged with a raw, primal terror. She heard another muffled thud, then a distinct metallic scrape from the back of the house. He wasn't just trying the doorknob, he was working at it. A sudden, sharp crack shattered the relative quiet of the night. It was the unmistakable sound of glass splintering, echoing with chilling finality through the small house. He's in! Ruth shrieked, her voice tearing itself from her throat in a ragged, desperate sound. The phone slipped from her grasp, dangling precariously by its cord, still connected to the distant, helpless voice of the 911 operator. On the other end, Sarah's calm facade cracked. Miss Price, what's happening? Can you hear me?" A cacophony of terrifying sounds erupted. A heavy thud, like a body falling, followed by a grunt, not Ruth's, but a deeper, harsher sound. Then, a distinct, terrifying series of impacts. Crash, bang, thump. It sounded like furniture being overturned, like a struggle in the dimly lit hallway. Then, Ruth's voice, a raw, guttural cry of pure agony and terror filled the line. It was not a scream of surprise, but a sound born of excruciating pain, a sound that spoke of immediate, undeniable violation. "No! Get... Ah!" Another sickening thud, a muffled groan, then a choked gasp, quickly followed by a heavy dragging sound, as if something substantial were being pulled across the wooden floor. The sounds were horrifyingly clear, painting a vivid, nightmarish picture in Sarah's mind. Each impact, each ragged breath, each desperate fading sound was a hammer blow to her soul. "Miss Price, what's happening? Talk to me. Can you hear me?" Sarah pleaded, her own voice now laced with fear, but receiving no reply. The line remained open, a chilling portal to the unfolding horror. All that remained was the distorted rustle of the phone lying abandoned on the floor, the distant drip of rain, and an unnerving, profound silence. A silence far more terrifying than any scream, for it signified the end. When the police cruisers finally pulled up to 314 Willow Creek Lane, a mere 5 minutes later, their sirens a mournful wail in the night. The house was dark and eerily quiet. The porch light flickered weakly, illuminating the front door, still closed. But as they rounded to the back, they found the window to the kitchen shattered, shards of glass glinting like frozen tears on the wet ground. The back door, forced open, hung ajar, revealing a gaping black maw. Inside, the scene was one of brutal disarray. Furniture was overturned, a lamp lay shattered, and in the center of the living room, a small, fragile woman lay still, her life extinguished like a silent predator who had slipped through the veil of night. The 911 recording of Ruth Price's last moments became a chilling testament to unseen terror, a raw, unedited glimpse into the heart of fear, where the human voice, in its purest form of terror, etched itself into the annals of true crime, leaving an indelible mark on all who dared to listen. It was a call that started with a whisper of dread and ended with the chilling silence of a life brutally stolen, captured perfectly by the indifferent ears of a machine. The night of October 3, 2012, in Aledo, Texas, was remarkably still. In the upscale, gated community of Oak Hill Trail, the houses were bastions of the American dream, large, sturdy, and silent. But inside one of these fortresses, the air had turned metallic with the scent of spent gunpowder and fresh blood. Jake Evans, a 17-year-old with a pale, boyish face, stood in the hallway holding a .22 caliber revolver. At his feet lay the bodies of his mother, Jamie, and his 15-year-old sister, Mallory. The silence that followed the gunshots wasn't heavy or mournful. To Jake, it was simply quiet. He didn't run, he didn't cry. He walked to the kitchen phone, his movements mechanical and precise, and dialed those 3 fateful digits, 911. 911, what is your emergency? The dispatcher asked, her voice bright and alert, prepared for a car accident or a medical crisis. I just killed my mom and my sister, Jake replied. His voice didn't crack. There was no tremor of adrenaline, no gasp for air. It was the tone of a student reporting a lost textbook or a clerk confirming a grocery order. It was a polite, monotone, and terrifyingly civil cadence. The dispatcher froze for a fraction of a second, a human glitch in the face of the unthinkable. You just killed your mother and your sister? Yes, ma'am, Jake said, his politeness bizarrely intact, with a gun. As the call progressed, stretching into a harrowing 20-minute dialogue, the true horror began to unfurl. This wasn't a crime of passion. It wasn't an outburst of reclaimed trauma. It was an experiment. Jake began to explain his inspiration, Earlier that week, he had watched the 2007 remake of Halloween by Rob Zombie. He told the dispatcher, with a chilling lack of self-awareness, that he had become fascinated with the lead character, Michael Myers, a silent, masked killer who murders his family without a word. Jake didn't see a monster, he saw a blueprint. "I've been planning it for a while," he confessed, his voice sounding almost bored. "I just thought it would be easier, to kill them. I thought I wouldn't feel anything. I thought it would make me feel different." The dispatcher, trying desperately to keep him on the line and away from his younger sisters, who were also in the house, but thankfully unharmed in another room, asked him why. "I don't really know," Jake mused, as if pondering a difficult crossword puzzle. "I guess I don't know. They were just kind of annoying me. I've been feeling pretty suffocated lately." The most disturbing segment of the audio occurs when Jake begins to critique his own performance. In his mind, the act of murder was a cinematic expectation that failed to meet reality. "It's weird. I'm pretty much a stutterer, but I'm not stuttering now. And I'm not really even angry. It's just happened." Then came the detail that haunts every investigator who heard the tape. Jake complained about the difficulty of the task. He had shot Mallory first, then his mother, but the human body, he discovered, was stubbornly resilient. "My sister, she didn't die right away," Jake said, and for the first time, there was a hint of something in his voice. Not remorse, but a slight frustration, a technical annoyance. "She was screaming. I had to shoot her again. It was kind of messy. I thought it would be quick, like in the movies, but it wasn't. It was actually kind of gross." He spoke about the screams of his 15-year-old sister as if they were a mechanical failure in a piece of machinery. There was no empathy, no recognition of the girl he had grown up with. She was simply an object that wouldn't stop making noise. Throughout the call, Jake remained on the phone, pacing the house. He told the dispatcher he had placed the gun on the kitchen counter. He even asked if the sirens he heard in the distance were for him. "I'm really worried about, nightmares," a sudden flash of selfishness piercing through his apathy. "I don't want to have nightmares about this." When the police arrived, they found Jake exactly where he said he would be. He surrendered without a struggle. He was the picture of a good kid, clean-cut, quiet, and cooperative. Behind him, the house was a slaughterhouse. The Jake Evans call is a landmark in true crime for one reason: it captures the abyss of the soul. Most horror relies on too much emotion, too much fear, too much anger, too much pain. Jake Evans provided zero. His 4-page written confession, released later, detailed how he had originally planned to kill even more family members, but stopped because he was shocked by how much the reality of the blood bothered him. Not the morality of the act, but the aesthetics of it. Psychologists would later debate his mental state, suggesting a profound detachment from reality, a dissociation so deep that he viewed his own life as a third-person narrative. He wasn't a madman in the traditional sense, he was a void. For the dispatcher, and for the millions who have listened to the audio since, the horror isn't found in the gunshots or the descriptions of the bodies. It is found in the polite yes ma'am and no ma'am of a boy who had erased his world and felt nothing but a slight sense of disappointment that it wasn't as clean as a movie. In the world of horror writing, we call this the uncanny valley of emotion. Jake Evans sounded human, he used human words, and he followed human social cues, but the soul was missing. This audio remains one of the most disturbing artifacts in history because it reminds us that the most dangerous monsters don't always growl or scream. Sometimes they speak in a calm, steady voice, and they ask for help because they are simply tired of the mess they've made.
The street of Seymour Avenue in Cleveland, Ohio, appeared to be nothing more than a weathered fragment of the Rust Belt, a row of modest houses where neighbors waved from porches and the city's grit settled like dust. But for 10 years, house number 2207 had been a black hole, a place where time curdled and the sun never reached. Inside, 3 women, Amanda Berry, Gina De Jesus, and Michelle Knight, existed in a sensory-deprived purgatory, chained in basements and locked behind reinforced doors by a monster named Ariel Castro. On May 6, 2013, the heavy, suffocating veil of that decade-long nightmare was finally torn asunder. It happened not with a grand explosion, but with a desperate, trembling hand reaching through a crack in a door, a frantic plea for help, and a 911 call that would freeze the blood of a nation. The afternoon was ordinary for Charles Ramsey, a neighbor eating a hamburger nearby, until he heard a scream that didn't sound like a child's play or a domestic spat. It was a primal, jagged sound, the sound of a soul clawing its way back to the land of the living. He looked toward the house with the boarded-up windows and saw a young woman's face pressed against the aluminum storm door, which was locked from the outside. With Ramsey's help, the bottom of the door was kicked open, and Amanda Berry crawled out, clutching a small child. She didn't run for the hills, she ran for a phone. She ran for the only thing that could make her existence real again after 10 years of being a ghost. When the 911 dispatcher answered the call, they expected a routine report. Instead, they were hit by a tidal wave of raw, frantic energy. "Help me! I'm Amanda Berry!" she screamed into the receiver. The name itself was a ghost story in Cleveland. Amanda had vanished in 2003, a day before her 17th birthday. Her mother had died of a broken heart years prior, convinced her daughter was gone forever. To hear that name spoken in the present tense through a haze of tears and gasping breaths was like hearing a voice from the grave. "I've been kidnapped and I've been missing for 10 years, and I'm here. I'm free now." The dispatcher, momentarily caught in the sheer impossibility of the statement, asked for her location and the name of her captor. The horror of the call lay in the frantic oscillation of Amanda's voice. One second, she was soaring with the adrenaline of freedom, and the next, she was plummeting into a paralyzing fear that the monster would return before the police arrived. "I need them now, before he gets back," she pleaded, her voice cracking under the weight of a decade of trauma. She identified her tormentor as Ariel Castro, a man who had lived among the community, even participating in search vigils for the very girls he had chained in his cellar. The audio is a visceral recording of the exact moment a human being transitions from a prisoner to a survivor. It is the sound of a decade of darkness being exhaled in a single, desperate breath. When the police arrived at 2207 Seymour Avenue, the air inside was stagnant, heavy with the stench of rot and the lingering echoes of silent screams. They found the other 2 women, Michelle Knight and Gina De Jesus, still huddled in the shadows, their eyes wide with the disbelief of those who had long ago abandoned the concept of rescue. They were skeletal, scarred, and pale as cave dwellers. They had been beaten, starved, and subjected to horrors that defy the limits of psychological endurance, all while the world outside went about its business, mere feet away. The house was a labyrinth of padlocks, boarded windows, and silent rooms lined with industrial tape to drown out any noise. The rescue was a miracle, but the horror it revealed left a permanent stain on the collective psyche. Ariel Castro was eventually sentenced to life plus 1,000 years, only to take his own life in his cell shortly after. But the true terror of the Cleveland kidnappings isn't just in the acts committed by the monster. It is in the terrifying realization of the suburban blind spot. For 10 years, 3 women were tortured in a house in the middle of a busy street. People walked their dogs past that house. Mail was delivered to that house. Children played in the yards adjacent to it.
The 911 call of Amanda Berry is a jarring reminder that evil does not always hide in the woods or in abandoned asylums. Sometimes it lives behind a storm door on a sunny street, and the only thing separating us from a decade of hell is a thin wooden wall and the terrifying silence of our neighbors. As the audio of Amanda's call fades into the archives of criminal history, it leaves behind a lingering, unnerving question for every listener. In the quiet of the night, when we hear a faint thud from the house next door, or a muffled cry that we dismiss as a television or the wind, are we really safe? Or are we simply the unwitting audience to a horror movie playing out in real time on the other side of the fence? The story of Donna Sanford and Amanda Berry proves that the most disturbing monsters are the ones who know how to blend into the daylight, waiting for the door to close so the nightmare can begin again.